President Abraham Lincoln once said in a letter to H.L. Pierce, "And he who would be no slave must consent to have no slave. Those who deny freedoms to others deserve it not for themselves." We should be pushing to fix modern-day slavery and human trafficking. The U.S. needs to be funding to fix slavery and provide support for victims. Put yourself in their shoes and try to imagine yourself in that situation. In To Kill a Mockingbird, it says, "You'll never really understand a person until you consider things from his point of view, until you climb into his skin and move around in it." We have to understand the problem and those suffering and then take steps to change things. Slavery in the U.S. started in 1619 when the first Africans were brought here. For the next 2 centuries, African Americans were held as slaves. In the U.S., between the years 1619 and 1863, there was an estimated total of 4 million African Americans in slavery. Being held against their will, they were forced to do grueling physical labor. These African Americans were sold as if they were objects and owned as if they were possessions. This was viewed as acceptable because it was making a huge profit and benefiting the economy of both the North and the South. The U.S., with a very strong push from northern states, abolished slavery in 1863, when President Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation. There was a strong push from free states to abolish slavery. Why aren't we pushing for the same change today? More states need to pass laws to protect people from human trafficking and to provide support for the victims. There is an estimated 40.3 million people living in some form of slavery, while nearly 403,000 of these people are living in the U.S. Modern-day slavery can be divided into multiple categories: forced labor, sex slavery, and even forced marriage. Modern slavery still exists because it makes a huge profit. The slave industry makes approximately $150 billion each year. Some people think that slavery isn't the same problem as it was in the 1800s. Some people don't even think modern slavery is a problem, but they would be so wrong. Worldwide, there are more slaves now than there have ever been. Slavery doesn't take the same shape as it used to. The worst part is that modern slavery isn't pushed only on one part of society. 71% of slaves are women, 25% are children, and that means the other 4% is men. This is affecting every group of people, and anyone is at risk of being human trafficked and being forced into slavery. No matter how you view this, the U.S. should be pushing for modern slavery to be completely eliminated. The U.S. should be taking better precautions to prevent anyone from becoming a slave and should also be funding the support of victims of slavery and human trafficking. In Martin Luther King's speech, The Other American, he says, "We must realize that the time is always right to do right. It is never too late to do the right thing. Even though there are millions of people in modern slavery, we can still push to fix the problem and allow freedom for all."